where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
This is Friday Java on the 26th of July 2019 from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Our magazine program here that we present every week as we normally do. There are sometimes weeks that we are a little bit late with the program due to travel and various other things that occur. Let's bring you up to date on a few world events. The Democratic Republic of Korea, the chairman there, Chairman Wu, has stated that the country has fired medium-range missiles and that it's a reaction to the Republic of Korea and their joint military exercises with the U.S. Once again, that is flaring up. We've had a number of events during the week. There were Russian Federation fighters in the area there, and the Koreans fired, I should say, that's from the Republic of Korea, known as South Korea, roughly 300 shots, some of them warning shots, etc., shots there. And there were also aircraft reported from the People's Republic of China flying in the area, heavily flown area there, and it's a potential hotspot. DJ Trump dismissed it just as basically being small missiles, which they are. They are not long-range missiles, just medium-range missiles that would stay in the area, would not leave the area there, the Korean peninsula. And they had the resignation of the president of the governor, of Puerto Rico. He was an advocate for statehood, Rosario. He resigned after some graphic emails were discovered from a chat group that he had with his cronies. And there's a broader problem in Puerto Rico, back to governance there, and the situation is in our nation there that has been depressed because of its colonization by the U.S., no doubt about that. And of course, discriminatory treatment after Maria, a hurricane that devastated the island, I should say, and there was not the kinds of help that arrived for Texas and parts of Florida. And some of that aid has not arrived there even to date. Caught up in the regime, the Trump regime, and its right-wing politics. The Trump regime, through its Justice Department, as some would call it, Department of Injustice, has determined that they will resume executions. Since the early 2000s, there have been no federal executions within the U.S. That is normally done in Terre Haute, Indiana. And that was a prison where Eugene Debs, the socialist candidate, was able to win there in from his cell at Terre Haute, actually, is what happened there. A very interesting situation within itself there in Terre Haute, Indiana. Some of the things that's happening, of course, Robert Mueller testified before the House Intelligence Committee. He was there in the Judiciary Committee for about 5 hours. The testimony basically revolved around a legal question, obstruction of justice, the legal definition of it, and the Justice Department's policy on a sitting president, who is DJ Trump. He cannot be charged while he's sitting. He could be charged after he leaves office, but that could be out of the statute of limitations. So for all practical purposes, there will be no charges against DJ Trump from a statutory standpoint. Now, there could be a political situation. It's called impeachment, but that is not likely. The ACP had its convention in Detroit, and they voted a resolution unanimously to impeach DJ Trump. And if that fell short, to campaign against DJ Trump. And various candidates appeared there, and the Urban League was having its convention, and now in Indianapolis, Indiana. And basically the same themes were there. Dr. Sharpton, the national leader, enunciated his position there, and the position of leadership, that the candidates need to do more speaking out against the rabid racism of the Trump administration. Interesting point of view there now from Bernie Sanders, the person we support. Bernie has denounced DJ Trump as a racist, as a Islamophobic person there, and basically engaging in journalistic the type of language, jingoistic type of language. That's basis campaign there. What it appears is that old DJ is crafting such things, the death penalty. He supports the death penalty to reignite his hard right base. Now that's kind of interesting in itself, because if we look at recent polls, we see that DJ's base is basically still with him. But now we've looked at Rasmussen and some of the other polls there. He's sometimes polling that mythical 40%. He'd been polling 50%. So it varies from time to time actually where he is in the scheme of things. We'll have our friends from the University of Virginia, that's Larry Sabato's shop here, and as we normally do, we remember Heather Heyer, who was brutally murdered in Charlottesville, Virginia, and another unfortunate situation occurring there in Charlottesville. as we queue up some of our things here. Hopefully we'll be able to do this. And of course tomorrow night we'll hear from Uncle Carl Rove and various people associated with Uncle Carl, and see where they are going in terms of that particular situation. Now let me just I'm not sure what is going on here. I believe we already talked about the ferries in Alaska, and there is a work stoppage out there in the state of Alaska. One of the things that is occurring, and there is basically some stoppage there by the government of Alaska has threatened them with a loss of jobs. Is a nominal situation that occurs from time to time. No doubt about that particular situation going forward. Let's take a break here, and we'll be right back. All right, we'll have Larry Sabato here, hopefully. I just discovered something here that not exactly what we were looking for here. We were looking for Sabato, and for some reason we are not getting Sabato. We do have some new information here on the head of the Border Patrol, and we'll look at that information as it comes forward here. Get into that part. We do have some other polling here, and I'm not sure why we are missing out on Larry Sabato and his particular situation. Excuse me, we'll have to come back to Larry Sabato, so let's go with our no, it's not where we want to go either. Somebody said there'd be days like this, but we had Larry Sabato, and Larry Sabato disappeared for whatever reason. Anyway, we'll go with the Border Patrol, and hopefully we'll get Larry Sabato back. We reported on a secret group of Border Patrol agents there, and now the chief of the Border Patrol, Carla Provost, I think is how she pronounced him, was a member of the secretive group. This is in the Intercept. Actually, the Intercept came out with this on the 12th of July. The Washington Post has a very similar article here. When the news broke that thousands of current and former Border Patrol agencies were members of a secret Facebook group filled with racist, vulgar, and sexist content, Carla Provost, the chief of the agency, was quick to respond. These posts are completely inappropriate and contrary to the honor and integrity I see and expect from our agents day in and day out. She's a veteran of the Border Patrol, was named head of the agency in August of 2018. The group existed, and content should have come as no surprise. 3 months after her appointment, Provost herself had posted in the group, then known as I Am 1015, now archived there. Provost's comments was incurious, a friendly slap back against a group member who questioned her rise to the top of the Border Patrol. And this is a little bit here. What is picked up, supervised in 2 years, more than you permanently 841, and so forth and so on. Provost is one of several Border Patrol supervisors the Intercept has identified as current and former participants in the secret group, including the chief of patrol agents overseeing whole border patrol sectors, multiple Border Patrol agents in charge of individual stations, and ranking officers in the Border Patrol Union, who had enjoyed direct access to DJ Trump. It's technically impossible that someone else posted in the group using the individual's account. The group existence has already generated at least 2 investigations. Bernie Thompson, he is from Mississippi, chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, sent a letter to the DHS Inspector General's office last week, specifically requesting that investigators examine whether Provost and acting DHS Secretary McAllen knew about and had previously addressed the problem of government personnel posting violent, racist, misogynist comments and pictures in I Am 10 of 15 group. This is why I requested a full investigation. Congressman Thompson has said Customs Border Patrol, the agency that oversees border protection, the Border Patrol did not dispute that Provost and other senior agents had commented in the group. CHS does not tolerate misconduct on or off duty and will hold those responsible. ProPublico, it was the first to report. That was on July the 1st, and several Democrats, including our Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, threatening posts about that, followed by reporting that senior officials of the Border Patrol, as well as in the CBP Public Affairs Office, had known about the group for several years and used it as an intelligence stream to monitor sentiments of the workforce. The CBP press office disputed reporting that it was monitoring the group, while the agency had taken appropriate action to review, investigate, and caution employees about inappropriate posts. The Intercept and email, further contrary to previous media reports, the CBP Office of Public Affairs does not continuously monitor the personal use of social media by workers there. And existence of Provost's participation in the group comes as Ocasio-Cortez, along with Representative Veronica Escobar. She represents the district in El Paso. Toshiba TB of Detroit. Ayanna Presley of the Commonwealth headed into hearings with the committee oversight as both ProPublico and Intercept had reported. The lawmaker's visit was a hot topic among the 1015 agents. In a statement, Elijah Cummings, chair of the Oversight Committee, said the Facebook group would be topic of discussion at the hearing the Maryland Democrat investigating into Facebook. Well, the group in question was I Am 1015 is unclear. CNN reported CBP workers have also participated in a group known as the Real CBP Nation that shared similar content to the Border Patrol group. Spokesman told the Intercept that it's investigating and will take appropriate action. The cases are being investigated. When the facts are asserted and investigated or processed, the report is reviewed to determine whether the case should be heard by the agency's disciplinary boards. Catering into current and former Border Patrol agents and workers, the 1020 group has more than 9,500 members before being exposed. As of Friday, the number was a little over 4,000. So there's some people that are holding on there. The Intercept search of the group included Matthew Hodick, I suppose, the Big Bend sector, whose last post was on the 10th of August 2016. Rodney S. Scott, the San Diego section. Jason Owen, former deputy patrol agent for Laredo, Texas, who oversees operations Border Patrol Houston Holton sector in Maine. So these characters are all over the place. By all indications, group member Thomas Hendricks was something of a Ediford type, and never covering before the political correct demands of so-called snowflakes. When Hendrick appeared to disappear from the group last summer, his stature and mystique grew, prompting who is Tom Hendrick, and we are all Tom Hendrick style posts. According to ProPublica, he was a supervisor in the Border Patrol Calmelico station with more than 2 decades on the job. Doesn't say much for some of these so-called old-timers. Anyway, this is basically where it is now. Let me just go to the Washington Post's report on this Carla Provoska. Basically, it says the same thing. She is the chief. Carla Provoska acknowledged that she was a member of the group. She said her involvement in the group to evaluate how I am representing my workforce. She told lawmakers she lied. Provost cited deeply. I didn't think anything at the time. She told the House Appropriations Subcommittee. She said she was unaware of the nature of the post until ProPublica reported that on the first. Her admissions raised a question: why did she not use the group instead to measure cultural sentiment among agents, attitudes about immigration, possible concerns she could address at the top? She either missed it from a failure to effectively do her job, actively avoiding thinking about it. That is from Joseph Heyman, director of the Center for Inter-American and Border Studies, University of Texas, El Paso. Part of her duty is to visit agents, this is Provoska, and where frontline supervisors may play down the realities of recruitment and moral crisis there. Provost looked for candid words about her performance. Heyman noticed she but she manifested no curiosity about candid things. She said more than 60 active and 8 former agents are being investigated. That's the report came from the Associated Press. The Customs Border Protection Agency, that includes the Border Patrol, did, of course, not respond to the Post's article here. Heyman suggested that the Post included culture and attitudinal problems that he said officials had been reluctant to address. It led to a survey of about 1,100 immigrants deported to Mexico. Nearly a quarter of respondents said they were verbally abused by immigration agencies, primarily the Border Patrol. The Posts are very consistent with what we found, him, and said, and it's not just this person is of a status there to humiliate people. Let's get this one in here. Woodstock, they're moving it from upstate New York to Meriwether Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland. That's according to Howard County Executive Calvin Ball. The move appears to be the last-minute effort to save the concert. This would be the 50-year anniversary of it. Michael Lang, one of the original organizers, shared his plan to put on the show. This will be August 16th to August 18th in Watkins Glen, New York. That's where it originally was. He promised an electric lineup from legacy acts to modern pop and hip-hop, emphasizing on social activism. Hallmark of Woodstock. Organizers revealed 2 months later that Jay-Z and Miley Cyrus were amongst those to perform, as well as a number of artists, the Dead and Company, Santana, John Fogerty, and more. Trouble boiled amidst the excitement. Red flags popped up when Billboard reported that Woodstock 50 organizers had been late in paying several of the artists. it made sense, giving several reports that the organizers had not yet secured, even reports from Watkins Glen or Vernon Downs. A second option east of Syracuse would have allowed the artists whose contracts were bound to the original location the right to refuse to perform. On the 30th of April, Woodstock 50 organizers assured the public that it would be okay. The bottom line is there's going to be an 50th anniversary there, and fulfilling the mission of drawing a crowd of about 100,000 who would each pay $100 to attend. Wherever an outdoor amphitheater can accommodate up to 32,000. So we'll see. The bands come and we produce the show, is what they said. So that is Woodstock. We'll see where all of that is going or not going. I think we covered the Federal Zoom executions. That was reported by Barr. That was 2003, the last time they had done it, hadn't carried one out. And according to Amnesty International, record execution rates across the globe have decreased by 31% from 2017 to 2018, with 690 executions recorded in 2018, down from 993 in 2017. Majority of countries have abolished the presses altogether. By the end of 2018, 106 countries had ended the death penalty. The U.S. is one that has not. In most of South America and Europe, the press is completely outlawed, and so that puts the U.S. in a dubious position there. According to Death Penalty Information Center, the jurisdiction in the U.S. In 2018 executed 25 people, was lower than the 4 consecutive years, lower than the 30. Amnesty International, China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, and Iraq were the world's leading in executions. That would have been in 2018. The death penalty is no longer in place, according to the Secretary Antonio Guterres. He's the Secretary of the UN. So we do have some people here that have went out of the business. Now let me see. I'm using the Washington Post here, and we'll do this tomorrow night on the Squad. And we're going to do a special program on Al Franken. Al Franken did a long a full interview with the New Yorker. So that's one of the programs we are is coming up. And we also have a program on identity politics. We need to bring it a little bit up to date, and we'll get around to doing that issue, and we'll get to some polling here. We'll see, however, if we can find Larry Sabato. We had Larry Sabato here. If we don't find Larry Sabato's article here as we move along, we'll go to Real Clear Politics and hopefully find some polls. The great hunt goes on, as they say. Anyway, these are some of the averages here, and if we look at the averages, is from the 7th of July, the 6th of July to the 23rd of July. Biden's average is at 29.3, Bernie Sanders at 15, Liz Warren at 14.5, Kamala Harris at 11.8, Buttigieg at 5, and Beto O'Rourke at 2.7, Senator Booker at 1.7, and Amy Klobuchar at 1.3, Mr. Castro at 1, Gabbard at 1, and the spread is 14.3. That is their spread. And if we look at some of these polls here, from the 22nd to the 23rd of July, Biden had 33, Bernie had 15, Liz Warren had 12, Harris 10, Buttigieg in the single digits at 5, Senator Booker at 2, and Amy Klobuchar has actually come up at 3. And the Economist poll, that was Fox News, incidentally. Biden has 25, Bernie 18 in that poll, 13, and Liz Warren 18, Harris 9, Buttigieg a little better at 7, and Booker at 2. The Politico, now that's a little bit older poll with the 15th through 21st there, and Biden had 33, Bernie had 18, Warren had 14, and Harris at 13, Buttigieg at 5, Beto O'Rourke had 3%, and some of the 1%ers there. Let's go to the Quinnipiac poll. Hopefully we can get it up here. This is released on the 25th. Quinnipiac University. Joe Biden leads DJ Trump 50 to 42% in critical swing state of Ohio. The only leading Democrat to top the Republican incumbent, according to Quinnipiac poll. Finds 43% for Trump. To Bernie Sanders has 45% here. Trump at 46. Liz Warren at 45. This statistically, there's nothing there. And 44-44 tied up. DJ Trump with Kamala Harris. Also tied up with Buttigieg. And he's besting, Senator Booker by 1 point. Women, African American voters, independent voters give Biden his lead in matchup with Trump. Biden leads 53 to 40 with women, and men are split 46 for Biden, 45 for Trump. European voters divided 48 for Trump and 45 for Biden. African American voters at 84 to 8. We've been seeing that independent voters go 55 to 32 for Joe Biden. Republicans back Trump 86 to 10. And amongst Democrats, Biden leads by 96 to 2. Now this is in the Buckeye State. Surprise! There's no surprise. Democrats run best against Trump and is solidly ahead in the Democratic primary. This is Joe Biden here. Most Ohio voters, 58% say they're better off financially today than they were in 2016. As 22% say they're worse off. Stay tuned. But Buckeye voters still give Trump a negative 43 to 52 rating there, compared to 43 to 54 June of 2018. In the Democratic primary, Joe Biden had 31%. Democrats, Independents, Harris, and Bernie Sanders at 14 each, and 13 for Warren, 6 for Buttigieg. And of the three coastal candidates, Liz Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Harris are not getting any special love from the blue-collar base. Each of them tied Biden by 2 to 1. Quinnipiac survey was of 1,431 voters in Ohio. Now this is Ohio, very interesting. 3.2% there. It was directed by Douglas Swartz. Dr. Swartz conducted a gold standard poll. This is the Quinnipiac poll, and so we go, as they say. And now we go to the Monmouth University poll out of Long Branch, New Jersey. Former Biden leading there, has a majority of support from African Americans. Currently leads 39 amongst. This is South Carolina. The next tier of candidates includes Kamala Harris at 12%, Bernie Sanders at 10%, and Liz Warren at 9%, Buttigieg in single at 5% there, and Cory Booker has 2%. Beto O'Rourke and Amy Klobuchar 1%. Beto has been doing some campaigning there. Another 17% likely voters say they're not leaning towards any candidate. That's pretty high there. In other early 2020 states, Mama has polled the past few months 12% in Iowa, in April 11% in New Hampshire, and 8% in June in Nevada. Biden has 51% of support amongst African Americans, 6 in 10 primary voters. His support amongst Europeans is at 24%, less than half. That is in South Carolina. Amongst the top 5, while amongst European voters and black voters, Liz Warren has 21%, 2% of African American voters. Buttigieg only 1% of African Americans, 11% of Europeans. Remain candidates are equally there. 12-12 is Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and 10-10 there. Biden has slightly higher support amongst men, 45%, than women at 36%. The same is true of Harris, 16% for men and 9% for women. However, 23% of women are more likely than men, 7% to say that no candidate preference at this time. Biden has significantly better amongst moderate to conservative voters at 49%. That is in South Carolina. South Carolina is the first state on the Democratic 2020 calendar with a majority of African American electorate. That's according to Patrick Murphy. He's director of the Independent Monmouth University Institute. Asked likely Democratic voters to rate the 25 announced candidates. Biden holds the most positive rating at 79 to 9 unfavorable, 82 to 4 amongst African Americans, 74 to 19 amongst European voters. Other candidates with strong ratings: Liz Warren at 67 to 7, Kamala Harris at 64 to 6, Bernie Sanders at 67 to 14. He would be better known. There's actually Bernie actually done better amongst African voters, 68 to 9, than European voters, 64 to 63. Senator Booker earned a largely positive rating, 49 to 12, including 55 to 18 amongst European voters, 45 to 10 amongst African American voters. Buttigieg is largely unknown there. Beto O'Rourke 32 to 18. Interesting what's going on there. Buttigieg slightly better ratings amongst European voters be expected out of South Bend. With African American voters, he's 20 to 12. The rating, positive in the rating for Beto O'Rourke is similar in both 4 to 29 there, and 24 to 13 amongst African American voters there. When compared to likely voters in Iowa and New Hampshire, Nevada, the drive is this is driven largely by lower familiarity amongst African American voters, especially true for Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke. African Democrats tend to be more moderate than white primary voters. Biden is a well-known candidate currently occupying the lane, according to Mr. Murphy. So that explains some things in South Carolina and what is going on there. A lot of moderate African American voters, overwhelmingly majority, 65% of likely Democratic voters in South Carolina, say they prefer a dominant candidate who would be a strong candidate against, of course, DJ Trump. The Palmetto State are thinking in choosing a presidential candidate. Nominee is healthcare, 48%, which has the best case of other primary polls. 51% in Iowa, 41% in New Hampshire, 41% in Nevada. Other important issues include immigration, 15%, not much there. Environmental concerns, only 9% on climate change. Beating Trump, 11%. Environmental concerns are less important in South Carolina than they are for Democrats. In other states, 15% versus 29% in Iowa, 24% in New Hampshire, and 24% in Nevada. The poll was conducted the 18th to 22nd of July with 404, very small poll, who are likely to vote in the Democratic primary. out of 669 other voters here. Let me just take one break here and our attempt to find a letter. Alright, if we look long enough, we'll find something. This is from the University of Virginia at Charlottesville, and of course, we remember Heather Heyer. This is their article. Actually, this is Alan Amowitz writing. He's a senior columnist, and we always look forward to him from the Crystal Ball, the 2020 congressional election, very early forecasting model based on post-war electoral history, along with presidential approval ratings, and the House generic ballot points to Democratic gains next fall. The projection won't be final until late next summer and be based on whether the president's approval and the House generic ballot at the time. Republicans enjoy some advantages on both the House and Senate map that might allow them to overperform somewhat in the final model. Forecasting for the 2020 race, and more than 20 Democrats vying for their nominations, are unclear that the nation's attention has been focused in recent months on which candidate will emerge. The challenge of DJ Trump, no matter whom the Democrats nominate, no matter who wins the general election, the ability of the next president to carry out his or her agenda depends upon which party controls the House and Senate in 2021. Even if Trump is reelected, the Democratic House would probably continue to aggressively pursue investigations into alleged misconduct. A Democratic Senate would almost certainly mean that the most presidential judicial nominees would be DOA on arrival. In the last election, Democrats won 235 House seats in the House of Representatives to 199 for the GOP, with one vacancy remaining to be filled for North Carolina. Republicans 153 to 47 seat majority in the Senate, with 34 up for grabs in 2020. Of those seats being contested, 22 are currently held by Republicans, 12 by Democrats. Republicans need to pick up 18 and 19 seats in the House, depending on the results of the special election in North Carolina. Democrats would need to pick up 3 or 4 seats in the Senate, depending on which party controls the vice presidency in 2021. In order to assess the outlook for the 2020 House and Senate, I use a forecasting model that provides fairly accurate predictions of seat swings based upon 4 factors: the number of seats currently held by the president's party, the president's net approval rating in late August, early September of the election year, results of generic ballot in late August and early September, and a dummy variable distinguishing midterm elections from the presidential elections based upon election outcomes in post-World War II era. We expect that the more seats the president party is defending in the current House and Senate, the more seats the president party should lose. The most popular and unpopular, the more seats the president party should gain or lose. The large lead and deficit that the president's party holds in Congress, congressional generic ballot, the more seats the president's party should gain or lose. The president's party should lose seats in midterm elections, even after controlling other predictors. Table 1 presents the estimate of the House and Senate forecasting model based on all congressional districts between 1946 and 2018, except 2 elections in 1948, that's Harry S. Truman was involved there, and 1988, where no generic ballot is available. However, the House model provides considerable more accurate forecasts, adjusted to R2 0.70, compared with adjustment R2 of only 0.54. The differences in accuracy reflects the fact that the House results are based on 435 contested contests across the entire country in every election, while the Senate are based on only 33 to 35 for the 2018 midterm. The model predicted a Democratic gain of 42 seats in the House, no change in the Senate. The actual gains for Democrats were 40 seats, and the Republicans gained 2 seats in the Senate. The estimate for House and Senate forecast. Table 2 presents conditions forecast of seat swings in 2020 House and Senate. The net approval rating of DJ Trump. The main takeaway points from this results of it's based on the president's current net approval rating, the current House generic ballot. Democrats are likely to make modest gains in the House elections and a real chance to win control of the Senate. Very interesting there. According to most recent averages from 538, that is net Silver's shop, national polls have shown a Democratic advantage of 6.5 in the House generic ballot and a net approval rating for DJ Trump at a minus 10. Conclusion based on dynamic shifts in the electoral landscape of Democrats appear likely to hold their majority in the House in 2020 and make at least some modest gains in the Senate. That's a very interesting proposition. In the House, we're in an era with limited ticket splitting and weak incumbency advantage. Overall, the House map has a Republican lead, and Republicans could win the House back by defeating fewer than 2/3 of the 31 Democrats. And 3 Republican seats that Hillary Clinton carried. Confluency of these factors could allow Republicans to overperform. That is always a chance. While the model predictions a good chance of a Democratic majority in 2021, that prediction should be taken with considerable caution, no doubt about that. If the Democrats do take back the Senate, it will almost certainly be a very narrow margin, which would likely be difficult to pass some legislation. And here's a book out here, The Blue Wave, the 2018 midterm election, what they mean. There's available from the university there. It's 30% off. So we'll look in that direction and see what is going on. One grain of salt here, Professor Amowitz. Model was on there, but we at this mic have always had some differences in using post-World War II, where we go back to when America was affected in an apartheid situation in the 40s and in the 50s. Things have changed. Demographics have changed. This is the reason you see DJ Trump doing things like the death penalty, heavy on immigration, the attack on women of color, for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, sending her back to the Bronx or to Queens. I guess it's a choice there. Aisa, Ms. Presley of the Commonwealth, the congressman there, and of Tlaib of Detroit, the Rashida Tlaib of Detroit, and who do we leave out here? Ilhan Omar, one of his favorite targets, that is from Minnesota. And in those areas, the constituencies there are confirmedly behind these women, so there's not a chance that there's going to be any collateral damage occurring there in those districts, not at this time. Now, the approval rating, a lot of DJ Trump's approval rating based upon these other machinations will depend on the economy. We have a numbers man report that's about prepared, but there's some more data coming up today that some say will show the economy not performing as well. One of the notes on the economy is the U.S. economy in the outline years. Now we're going into 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. The economy will not perform as it did in 2017, 2018. That is just a fact. And globally, economies are not going to generate the same kinds of GDP as out there. And one other note on Brexit, Boris Johnson, the colorful character, a buffoon, is now the Prime Minister in the UK and is promising if necessary, a no-deal Brexit. That would shave 1 to 2 points off the UK economy. Many businesses will, as LBJ would say, break camp. And we have what's called the Irish backstop. You have the Republic of Ireland in Northern Ireland, a province of the UK. And if there is an economic situation there, Ireland will be in the EU. And where Northern Ireland is, who knows, they could be out of the game. They'll still be able to cross the border, but this customs regime is there. And we also have Scotland. Scotland wants to remain in the EU. Will the Scottish Independence Parties gain? And could they decouple from the UK? Those are some questions to bring out here. Now, one of the things to remember that Johnson and company in the UK, when they were campaigning to leave, was a populist movement from the right-wing sector. Now, his election to the Conservative Tory Party, members voted there, less than 200,000, about 150, 160,000 elected him. But there is a split even in the Tory Party. And where does this leave Labour? We'll talk some more about that. Perhaps we'll have some more on the week that was on many of the same channels, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, YouTube, and various others, as we start to highlight our productions here and continue to modernize them. Hopefully we'll get more viewers over on YouTube. We'd like to do that. And the iHeart is much better. Stitcher is a premier channel. That's your mobile channel. For those of you that are on smartphones, you can find us. You can find the RSS feed. Hopefully we need to straighten some things out of there. So there's some housekeeping things we need to do. Update our logo and update some other things. But we are continuing to bringing new things on, the identity broadcast. And we still have broadcasts we've been working on. Hopefully we'll get that out next week. Podcasts and more podcasts. The state of internet radio. There are just more of them coming out from some of the establishment type of organizations. And where does this leave independent internet radio people like WBRN and the Boston Red Network? Those are some things we need to look at. Nonetheless, have a good weekend. Stay cool. And in Paris, Belgium, and places like that, they're over 100 degrees centigrade. So that makes a case for climate change. Science is science. And this all will play out with the Trump administration now that we are starting to measure the effects of climate change on the bottom line, the economy. Good day.